Before mountains had names and before fire learned to burn, there was only breath, the silent rhythm that pulsed between stars. From that sacred breath came a whisper, and from the whisper came a spark. The spark drifted downward, wrapping itself in a cloak of mist and light until it touched the sleeping earth. When it kissed the stone opened like a seed, and from it rose a girl made of wind and shimmer. Her name was Aeloria. She had no shadow, for she was born of air. Her eyes reflected every sunrise that would ever be, and her laughter sounded like the flutter of wings. The gods called her the first wind, the youngest child of creation. Wherever she danced, seeds sprouted and rivers found their way to the sea. But inside her chest, something new was stirring, something even the gods had never felt. Warmth. It was the pulse of the very first flame. Hidden deep within her heart, the elder gods watched with unease. "Fire belongs to the stars," said one. "If it falls into mortal hands, it will devour the world." But the goddess of dawn smiled, "Or it may warm it." So they gave Aeloria freedom, but warned her, "Guard the flame within, for its hunger will shape the fate of worlds." For 1,000 seasons she roamed the sky, learning the tongues of storms and the songs of clouds. She carried the scent of spring across valleys and braided the silver hair of waterfalls. Yet the warmth inside her grew stronger, restless, searching for something that could answer its echo. She did not know it then, but the flame within her was not meant to shine alone. It was a promise waiting to be shared. One twilight, as the veil between heaven and earth thinned, Aeloria heard a cry, faint, human, trembling. It came from below, from a small world that still shivered in endless mist. Drawn by compassion, was her body took shape, arms, hands, a face lit by gentle fire. For the first time she touched soil, and the ground did not reject her. She felt the heartbeat of the world beneath her feet, slow, fragile, yet full of yearning. She wandered through valleys of stone and silence. There were no stars, only dim embers where life once tried to burn. People huddled inside caves, afraid of the dark. Their eyes were gray, their voices hollow. They no longer remembered a sleeping child and cupped her hand over his heart. A single spark leapt from her palm to his chest. The boy stirred, his lips parting in wonder as warmth spread through his veins. For the first time in centuries, laughter rose from human throats. The wind carried it across the land, and where it passed, frost turned to dew. But not all were pleased. The gods felt the pull of their daughter's flame, reaching the mortal plane. "She gives away what was forbidden," thundered the Lord of Tempests. "She dares to teach the clay to burn." Yet the dawn goddess whispered, "Do not fear her gift. Fire that is shared does not die, it multiplies." Still, the council of gods was divided. Some swore to reclaim her essence, others to let destiny unfold. And down below, Aeloria stood in the fading twilight, unaware that her choice had changed the balance of all things. The boy opened his eyes and asked, "Who are you?" She smiled, the first true flame glowing behind her gaze. "I am the breath that carries warmth through the cold," she said softly. "I am the wind that remembers the sun." As night fell, she looked up to the heavens, and a single star flickered where there had been none. The gods watched in silence. The age of stillness was over. The age of fire had begun. Far beyond the veil of mist, where mountains rise like frozen waves, There lies a cavern older than time itself. Its walls are carved with stars that never shine, and in its hollow heart sleeps a being known only as the Dragon of Ages. Its breath is the rhythm of the world, the pulse that binds heaven to earth. Once every 1,000 years it dreams, and in its dream, the world remembers how to live. It was into this cavern that the wind carried Aeloria. The laughter of mortals still echoed behind her, but her heart burned with unease. Each spark she gave away dimmed the flame within her just a little. She could feel it, the warmth inside flickering like a candle in a storm. She knew she needed to understand the gift she carried before it consumed her or faded forever. The cavern mouth opened like a wound in the mountain. Runes of old light shimmered faintly on the walls, forming a path of whispers. Aeloria followed them, her bare feet tracing the cold stone. The air grew thick, heavy with memory. At the center stood an altar, cracked but unbroken, holding a mirror of obsidian. When she looked into it, she did not see her reflection. She saw the future, clouds choking the sky, cities of ash, oceans of glass, and among them, a voice called out, "When the flame forgets how to burn, the night shall eat the dawn." The words struck her like a blade of ice. Then the darkness stirred, scales scraped stone. Two golden eyes opened vast as horizons. The Dragon of Ages uncoiled, each movement slow as centuries. Smoke rose from its nostrils, glowing with embers from the world's first fire. Child of breath and spark, it rumbled, its voice deeper than thunder. "Why do you disturb my dream?" Aeloria bowed. "I seek to understand the fire within me. It grows stronger and hungrier." The dragon studied her, the way the storm studies a flame before deciding to snuff it or let it dance. "That fire is not yours alone," it said. "It is the heart of creation. When the gods first sang the world into being, one note burned brighter than the rest. They buried it inside the wind so that it could never die. You are that wind," Aeloria's voice trembled. "Then why does it hurt to give it away?" "Because every light feeds on something," the dragon replied. "Even love must burn to keep others warm." The dragon exhaled, and the smoke formed a vision, an image of a man hammering metal in a small forge. His hands blistered yet steady. "This is the one who will remind you what the fire is for," it said. "But beware, for your flame will draw shadows as well as hearts. The darkness will rise to claim what it once lost." Before Aeloria could speak, the dragon's breath surged outward, turning to wind. The cavern trembled, and the voice faded into echo. "Seek the one who shapes the heart of fire. Only together shall you awaken the dawn." The wind flung her from the cave, scattering sparks into the night sky. Each spark became a star, tracing a silver path toward the mortal world below. When she landed upon the misted plains again, she saw the vision unfold. The black smoke of a dying forge. The silhouette of a man alone against the cold. His hammer struck once, twice, and the sound carried like a heartbeat through the mountains. Aeloria knew the prophecy had begun. The heavens stirred. In the realm above, the gods felt the tremor of fate. The Lord of Tempests rose from his throne of storm and whispered, "So it begins. The flame seeks flesh." And far below, in the village where no sun had ever risen, a single ember sparked inside the heart of a human named Kaen. The mortal world was veiled in sorrow. No sun had touched its sky for generations. No song had broken its silence. The rivers crawled like wounded glass, and the air was heavy, with the sighs of forgotten prayers. This was Vera, the kingdom of mist, where light was only a rumor. Aeloria descended through the pale clouds like a falling star, her feet kissing the ground with a whisper of wind. The people she saw were shadows of themselves, gray-skinned, hollow-eyed, moving without purpose. They did not notice her at first, for they had long stopped looking up. She wandered through narrow alleys of crumbling stone, past empty markets and wells that reflected no sky. The smell of ash lingered in the air. Somewhere, a child coughed, the sound sharp and lonely in the vast stillness. Aeloria's heart ached. Every breath she took felt like drawing frost into her chest. Then she heard it, the faint ring of iron. Clang, clang, clang. The sound was out of place here, too alive for this dying land. Aeloria followed it through the fog until she reached the edge of the village, where a dim red glow pulsed behind a wooden door. Inside, a forge burned, weak but stubborn. Sparks leapt and vanished like fireflies. And there he was, a man with soot on his hands and light in his eyes. His hammer rose and fell in rhythm, striking metal that refused to die. He did not see the goddess at first. "Who are you?" she asked softly. The hammer froze midair. He turned, startled, yet unafraid. "Just a blacksmith," he said. His voice was rough, but beneath it was warmth, the kind that endures storms. "You keep the fire burning," Aeloria said, "even when the world forgets it." He shrugged. "If I don't, who will? The steel needs flame, and maybe..." He smiled faintly. "So do we." The forge crackled. The glow painted their faces. Hers ethereal, his mortal. For the first time, Aeloria saw beauty not born of divinity, but of persistence. She felt something stir within her flame, a spark not of power, but of connection. Outside, the mist thickened, whispering secrets. Shadows moved among it. Thin figures with hollow eyes, drawn by the warmth like moths to light. The air grew colder. Kaen noticed first. The mist, it's moving. Aeloria stepped forward, her gaze calm yet fierce. "It's the hunger of the dark. Stay behind me." The fog hissed, and from it crawled creatures of ash, shapes once human, now hollowed by despair. Their touch froze stone. Their voices murmured the same word: warmth. Aeloria lifted her hand. Light gathered at her fingertips, weaving through the air like golden smoke. The creatures recoiled, but she did not strike them. Instead, she whispered a single breath of fire, gentle, sorrowful. The warmth reached their hollow chests, and for a heartbeat, the mist flickered with the faces of who they once were. Fathers, sisters, lovers. Then the light consumed them, not in pain, but in peace. And the fog thinned into nothingness. When the silence returned, Kaen stared at her. "You saved them." Aeloria looked at her hand, trembling faintly. The light within her was weaker now, dimmed by compassion. "No," she said, "they saved themselves. I only reminded them what warmth feels like." Kaen watched her, as one watches sunrise after endless winter. "You're not from here," he said quietly. "No," she replied, "but I am here for you." He didn't understand the prophecy in her words, how his forge would become the heart of a war, how his name would echo in the songs of ages. He only nodded, picked up his hammer and said, "Then stay a while. The fire burns brighter when shared." Aeloria smiled, a goddess for the first time feeling human. Outside, unseen by both, A shadow stirred beyond the hills. The mist began to whisper once more. The flame has returned. The forge burned through the long gray nights, a single heartbeat in a silent world. Every strike of Kaen's hammer sent ripples through the air, shaping not only metal, but destiny itself. Aeloria watched from the doorway, her silver hair catching sparks like a net of stars. Each ember that leapt from the anvil felt familiar, like pieces of her own light, echoing what slept inside her chest. "Tell me," Kaen said one evening, sweat gleaming on his brow, "why does your light never die?" Aeloria smiled faintly. "Because it remembers where it came from." She approached, placing her hand above the coals. Instead of burning, the fire rose to meet her palm, bowing like a creature recognizing its maker. Kaen stepped back astonished. You control it." "No," she whispered. "It listens." Fire was never meant to obey. It was meant to belong. For days they worked side by side. He forged the steel. She breathed warmth into it. The result was no ordinary metal. It glowed from within, veins of gold alive with gentle fire. Together they were creating something the world had forgotten. A weapon forged from hope, not hatred. But hope has a sound, and somewhere deep beneath the mountains, something heard it. Beneath the ruins of forgotten temples, in the caverns where ash gathered like snow, the god Morven stirred. Once he had been the keeper of flame, until his jealousy turned to hunger. He had devoured his own light, becoming the first shadow, bound for centuries in darkness. He had slept. But now, the forging of living fire sang to him like a distant drum. He opened his eyes. They were black holes rimmed with red. "The flame has returned," he hissed, and the stone walls cracked from the sound. Back in Vera, the villagers began to notice change. Mist no longer clung to their lungs. Frost melted from their doorways. They spoke of the blacksmith and the mysterious woman who walked with the wind, saying she was an angel, or perhaps a curse. Mothers lit candles again. Children dared to laugh. Each tiny light became a beacon, and each beacon a summoning. Aeloria felt it before Kaen did. The tremor in the air, the whisper of something old and hungry. One night, she found the horizon bleeding red. Clouds rolled like molten stone, and the moon split in its own reflection. "The shadow wakes," she murmured. Kaen followed her gaze. "Then we fight it." She turned to him. "You are only a man, and you," he said, "are the flame. Together, that's enough." His words struck her deeper than any prophecy. She placed her palm over his chest. Beneath his ribs, she felt the same warmth she had once given to a child in a dream. The light had multiplied. It had found a home. That night, they finished the forging. The blade they made sang when lifted, scattering sparks that danced like firebirds. Aeloria named it Solendra, meaning the light that remembers. When she breathed upon its edge, the runes of creation ignited. When Kaen held it, it glowed as if recognizing him. Far away, Morven's laughter rolled through the earth like thunder. "Forge your light," he said. "I will forge my darkness." He raised his hand, and from his broken crown poured a river of shadows. Wraiths shaped from regret, whispering every fear ever spoken. They spread across the land, devouring warmth, erasing memory. In Vera, the torches flickered. The people prayed not to gods, but to the fire itself. And as the wind swept through their cries, Aeloria whispered, "We will not let the night win." Kaen gripped Solendra, "Then we stand together." The forge behind them flared one last time. burning brighter than the sun that had abandoned the sky. Its flame rose, twisting into a phoenix of light that soared above the kingdom. Wherever its wings touched, darkness retreated. But Morven's laughter still echoed in the distance. The war of flame and shadow had begun. High above Vera's rising light, the heavens trembled. For ages, the gods had watched mortals stumble through frost and silence, content to let them fade. Now, the spark of warmth had returned, unnatural, divine. And in the council hall of winds, a storm gathered. On thrones carved from thunderclouds, the elder deities convened. The Lord of Tempest struck his spear upon the floor. She has given them the sacred fire, he roared. The child of wind has defied us. Across from him, the dawn goddess sat in quiet defiance, her golden hair like sunrise. She has given them hope, she answered. Would you rather watch them die in the dark? But law was heavier than mercy. The sky scrolls, written in lightning, bound all creation. No god might share divine flame with mortal flesh. For such a power, if uncontrolled, could unravel the stars themselves. Still, the council hesitated, for even gods fear what they no longer understand. Below, in the mortal forge, Kaen and Aeloria worked beneath a sky that had begun to twist with unseen fury. Aeloria felt it, the pull of her kin, the invisible chains tightening around her spirit. Sparks faltered in midair, drawn upward as if the heavens were breathing them in. Kaen noticed her trembling hands. Are you hurt? She shook her head. They've found me. The roof cracked open to thunder. Light poured down in a column of divine judgment. From it stepped a figure armored in storm. Sarathiel, the warden of the sky. His wings were forged from lightning. His eyes held the color of distant rain. Aeloria of the first wind. His voice echoed through stone and soul. You have broken the covenant. By decree of the council, you shall return to the vault of heaven and surrender your flame. Kaen moved between them, raising Cylindra. She's not going anywhere. Sarathiel regarded him with cold pity. A mortal standing against a god. You will be ashes before the next breath. Aeloria's voice cut through the thunder. No, he is more than mortal now. She spread her arms, and her fire met Sarathiel's storm. The air exploded in a swirl of gold and silver light. The forge became a sun, the village beneath it a sea of shadows and radiance. When the brilliance faded, Aeloria knelt, bound by chains of pure wind, the chains of heaven, unbreakable even by will. Her wings of light dimmed to embers. Sarathiel stepped forward. You cannot fight your own nature, child. But she lifted her eyes, and in them burned a defiance older than the sky itself. My nature, she whispered, is to burn. With a cry that split the clouds, she shattered one link, then another. Every fracture screamed across the heavens. The gods above felt it as pain. Lightning rained. Mountains split. Kaen rushed forward, breaking the last chain with Cylindra's glowing edge. The sword screamed like a living thing. Aeloria collapsed into his arms, free but weakened. The storm withdrew, leaving only silence and falling sparks. In the council above, the gods saw what mortals and flame together could become, and they were afraid. That night, Kaen tended her wounds beside the dim forge. They'll come again, he said. I know, she answered. But so will the dawn. He looked at her then, truly seeing what she was. Not a goddess above men, but a fire that chose to kneel beside them. And for the first time in history, heaven trembled not with anger, but with doubt. Far away in the caverns of ash, Morven smiled. "The chains are broken," he whispered. "Now both gods and mortals will burn." The night after the storm, silence fell. A heavy, waiting silence. Like the breath before a scream, the forge's fire had gone cold. Yet the world felt feverish. Even the stars seemed dimmer, hiding behind veils of smoke no wind could move. Far beneath the earth, in catacombs where the bones of forgotten empires slept, Morven awoke fully. The sound was not thunder, but the cracking of ancient stone as his great form rose from the ashes. His body was made of smoke and molten shadow. His voice was the sound of dying flames. "Once I was the keeper of fire," he said to the darkness. "Now I am its hunger." He looked toward the mortal realm, where Aeloria's light had rekindled warmth in human hearts. Every flicker was agony to him, a reminder of what he had lost. He reached out one massive hand, and from his palm poured 1,000 ghostly embers. The ash wraiths, spirits of despair. "Go," he whispered, "feed upon their hope. Leave them cold, leave them hollow, let them remember me." The wraiths rose like a gray storm, spreading across the sky in silence. Tito Tian. In Vera, Kaen dreamed of fire turning to ash. He woke to the sound of coughing in the village. Outside, the air had thickened to smoke. Every breath stung. The sky looked bruised. Aeloria stood barefoot on the hill, her silver hair flickering faintly in the red haze. She could feel it. Morven's presence crawling through the world, tasting every flame. "He's awake," she said. Kaen joined her, gripping Selendra, whose light was dull beneath the smoke. "Then we fight him before he reaches us." She shook her head. "You don't fight shadow with steel. You fight it with memory," he frowned. "What does that mean?" She touched the blade. "Shadow only exists where light forgets itself. If we remind the world what warmth feels like, the darkness will starve." They walked into the heart of Vera. The villagers gathered, faces pale, coughing, clutching their chests. The smoke whispered in their ears, twisting their thoughts. "The light will leave you. All fire dies. She will burn you too." Aeloria knelt among them, her hand touching the frozen earth. "Listen to me," she said softly. "This is not the end. This is the test." She opened her palm, and a tiny flame bloomed, no larger than a candle's heart, yet it glowed with the warmth of 1,000 dawns. "Hold it," she told an old woman whose hands trembled. "I can't," the woman said. "It will hurt." Aeloria smiled. "Then it is alive." The woman reached out. The flame rested in her palms, and tears filled her eyes. "It's warm." The whisper of the ash faltered. One by one, others came forward. Each touch made the flame stronger. Soon, the square glowed with small lights, hundreds of them, weaving together into a sea of warmth. The wraiths above shrieked, burning away in the glow. Kaen stood behind her, guarding the circle of fire, his hammer glowing faintly as if the flame itself remembered him. When the last wraith dissolved, the air cleared. For the first time in living memory, the people saw the moon again. But Aeloria was pale, trembling. Every flame she kindled cost her a piece of her own fire. Kaen caught her as she fell. "You gave them everything," he said. "I gave them enough," she whispered, eyes half closed. "Enough to remember." Far away, Morven's laughter rolled through the mountains like an avalanche. "She gives and gives," he said. "Let her. Fire that burns too long consumes itself." He reached toward the heavens, drawing upon the fear of gods and men alike. and began forging his own creation, a heart of black flame, made from envy and ruin. "When I am done," he said, "their light will worship me." And so began the Age of Ash. The sickness of ash had passed from the village, but the land remained gray and trembling, as if the world itself feared to breathe. Aeloria slept beneath a canopy of smoke, her light dim as the dying coals of a hearth. Every time she exhaled, a spark drifted upward, and Kaen caught it, hiding it in a clay jar beside the bed, a desperate attempt to keep what warmth she had left. For days, he listened to her heartbeat fade, and one night, when even the crickets had fallen silent, he made a choice. He strapped Solyndra to his back, wrapped his burned hands in leather, and looked once more at her pale face. "I'll bring it back," he whispered. "I'll bring the fire that heals." Then he left, climbing toward the horizon where the volcano Pyra waited, the mountain that wept fire, the birthplace of the world's first flame. She thought the journey was cruel. Wind flung knives of ash against his skin. Rivers boiled from beneath the ground. The sky itself seemed to weep molten tears. Every step up the blackened slope burned through his boots, and every breath filled his lungs with dust. Yet Kaen climbed. He remembered Aeloria's smile when the forge first lit. He remembered the warmth that chased away the mist. Those memories burned brighter than any sun. At the base of the mountain, he found the remains of an ancient altar, carved with runes half melted by time. The words still glowed faintly. "Only those who give may receive." He knelt, placed his calloused hands upon the stone, and whispered, "Then take what you must." The mountain answered. The ground cracked. Fire erupted in a ring around him, rising like serpents of gold and crimson. The air screamed, and Kaen was thrown backward, his hammer clattering away. From the heart of the flame, a voice spoke, deep, old, and female. "Why do you climb, mortal, when all who seek me are burned?" Kaen coughed, half blind, half mad with heat. "Because she's dying," he said, "and I can't live in a world without her light." The voice rumbled, both sorrow and laughter in its tone. "You seek to steal fire from fire itself. Foolish, or divine, a shape formed in the flames. The spirit of the volcano, the mother of embers. Her eyes were molten amber, her hair a waterfall of magma. You cannot take my fire," she said, "but you may earn it." Kaen stood, trembling but unbroken. "Tell me how." The spirit raised her hand, and before him appeared 3 visions. A hammer, glowing white-hot, the symbol of strength, a heart made of glass, the symbol of sacrifice, and a single tear falling into flame, the symbol of love. "Choose one," she said, "and understand that whatever you do not choose, you will lose forever." Kane's breath caught. He looked at the hammer, the heart, the tear. Finally, he reached out and took the tear. The spirit's eyes softened. "Then your love will be remembered, but your flesh will burn." Fire enveloped him. He screamed, not in pain, but in release. The flame poured through him, consuming, cleansing, remaking. When it was done, the spirit whispered, "Rise, keeper of the flame." Kaen opened his eyes. His hands no longer bled. His scars glowed faintly with molten gold. Solyndra shimmered at his side, alive once more. In his chest, a new ember pulsed, a gift of Pyra itself. When he returned to Vaira, dawn broke for the first time in centuries. He knelt, beside Aeloria and placed his palm over her heart. The ember leapt from him to her, blooming like sunrise beneath her skin. She gasped, light flooding her eyes once more. "Kaen," she whispered, what have you done?" He smiled weakly. "I just remembered where the fire lives." And for a moment, the world burned with life again. The dawn that followed Kaen's return was unlike any in memory. For the first time in 1,000 winters, light touched the mountains without burning them, and warmth crept through the soil as if the earth itself exhaled. The village awoke to find frost melted into shimmering dew, and the air carried the scent of new beginnings. Inside the small hut, Aeloria opened her eyes. Light spilled from them, not the pure celestial silver of old, but something gentler, touched by the pulse of mortal life. She sat up slowly, breath trembling. The flame inside her was no longer a star, it was a heart. "What happened?" she whispered. Kaen smiled, exhausted but alive. "You happened again." He showed her the scars along his hands, veins of gold where once there had been wounds. "Pyra gave me her fire. I gave it to you." Aeloria looked at him with awe and fear. "You carry a god's flame inside your flesh. That fire will never die now. It will burn you from within." Kaen only laughed softly. "Then I'll burn gladly." They stepped outside together. The people of Vera knelt as Aeloria passed, their eyes bright with wonder. Some wept openly. Others simply reached toward the warmth in the air, as if to make sure it was real. She touched a child's cheek. The girl giggled, a sound like music to forgotten ears. "This is not my light alone," Aeloria said to the crowd. "It is yours. Keep it alive. Share it, protect it." Her voice was no longer thunder nor wind. It was a melody the heart could remember. Kaen watched her, feeling something stir deep within him. The ember Pyrrha had placed in his chest flared softly each time he looked at her. There was love there, yes, but also something else. A connection, a balance. Fire and earth, God and man. One could not exist without the other. Casey. But high above, Morven's eyes opened once more. From the shadowed realm beneath the world, he gazed upon the reborn flame and grinned. "So she has mixed her divinity with mortal blood," he hissed. "She has made herself vulnerable." He raised his blackened hand and a storm of cinders spiraled from his palm. They twisted through the air, forming the legion of hollow flames. Warriors of smoke and embers, their bodies flickering between fire and void. "Go," Morven commanded, "find her. Feed upon her mercy. Let the light eat itself." That night, Aeloria felt the tremor in her bones before anyone else did. She looked toward the horizon. The sky glowed red, but not from sunrise. From the mountains came a wave of darkness that shimmered like hot glass. Kaen drew Cylindra, its light pure and steady. "The shadow comes again." Aeloria's voice was calm. "Then we meet it as one." The first of Morven's soldiers reached the valley, twisted forms that burned and froze at once. The villagers screamed, fleeing into their homes, but the smoke followed them. Every cry, every fear fed the shadows, made them stronger. Aeloria stepped forward, her feet leaving trails of fire in the dirt. "You seek my light," she called to them. "Then behold what it means to shine." She raised her hands, and a storm of golden flame erupted. The night sky turned to day. Shadows disintegrated, their screams echoing into silence. But with each burst of light, she felt a sharp pain through her chest. The mortal heart that Pyra's fire had blessed could not contain such power for long. Kaen rushed to her side. "Enough, Aeloria, you'll burn yourself out." She smiled weakly. "If I am fire, then this is how I live." He caught her before she fell. Around them, the surviving villagers gathered again, each carrying a small torch, each flame trembling yet alive. One by one, they raised their lights high. The valley shimmered with 1,000 human fires, each reflecting hers. Aeloria looked upon them and whispered, "Yes, that's how it begins. Fire spreads." Far across the dark sea, in his pit of cinders, Morven felt his legions perish. His grin only widened. Let her burn. When all that is bright consumes itself, I will be the only flame left. He raised his black heart to the heavens, and even the gods will bow to the shadow of their own fire. Beneath the dying crust of the world, the darkness moved. For ages, Morven had ruled only shadows, a god bound to his own curse, neither alive nor dead, a wound that could not heal. But now, the mortal flame had returned. The balance of heaven trembled, and in the tremor, he found a door. He stood in a cavern where rivers of molten ash carved their paths through bone. Around him lay the remnants of his first children, the fire spirits who had worshipped him before time began. With one gesture, he breathed into their dust. They rose as black statues, eyes hollow, mouths full of smoke. "Children of Cinder," he whispered, "your king has need of you." The ash groaned. The statues cracked, and from them stepped warriors of soot and ember, the legion of the void flame. Morven watched them march into the darkness, each step spreading ruin. Wherever they passed, rivers cooled to stone, mountains bled black rain, and the sky shivered. Above them all, the god himself rose, his form gathering shape. First smoke, then sinew, then armor of melted stars. When he finally spoke, the sound rippled through the heavens. "Let there be night without end." Far to the north, the gods of the high sky watched in disbelief. The Lord of Tempests slammed his fist against the clouds. He crosses into the mortal plane. The bindings are broken. The Dawn Goddess closed her eyes, because she broke them first. The council's voices clashed like storms. Some called for Aeloria's destruction. Others begged for mercy. In the end, only silence remained, because no one, not even the gods, could undo what had begun. On Earth, the signs were everywhere. The sea turned to glass. Trees crumbled into dust. Even the sun flickered. Kaen looked upon the horizon and saw it, an army of shadows cresting the hills like a black tide. Above them towered Morven himself, crowned with smoke and flame. His eyes were twin furnaces burning with ancient hate. Aeloria felt the world recoil beneath her feet. The ground itself whispered her name in fear. "He's here," she said. The first flame returns to claim its throne. Kaen drew Cylindra, whose light quivered in his hands. "Then we stop him." "You can't stop a god," she said quietly. He met her gaze. "Then we remind him what a god forgot." They gathered the people of Vera atop the citadel of stone. Kaen stood at the gate with the blacksmiths and warriors, each wielding blades forged in the fire she had taught them to kindle. Aeloria rose above the battlements, her light dim yet steady. She closed her eyes and felt every heartbeat in the valley. Each one a spark, each one a promise. When she opened them, her wings of flame unfolded once more, glowing not with divine perfection, but with human defiance. The sky darkened. The first clash of steel and shadow began. Morven's laughter rolled across the battlefield. You give them fire, and they burn for you. How sweet. Shall I show you what becomes of love? He lifted his hand, and from it erupted a wave of black flame that devoured light itself. Warriors screamed. Torches died. Aeloria countered, hurling a river of golden fire to meet his darkness. The two collided in a cataclysm of heat and sound. The ground splitting, the heavens bleeding molten rain. Kaen fought among the chaos, his blades singing, cutting through wraiths that fell like ash. But for every shadow slain, 10 more rose. Above, Aeloria and Morven circled each other like twin stars locked in an endless eclipse. You were once like me, she cried. I was more than you, Morven thundered, until compassion turned fire into weakness. She raised her burning hand, then feel weakness once more. Their lights clashed again, and the shockwave shattered the moon's reflection across the sea. When the night finally settled, half the world burned, half lay buried in soot. Aeloria fell from the sky, her wings reduced to embers. Kaen ran to her, kneeling in the ashes. He's too strong, she whispered. The darkness feeds on itself. We can't kill him. Not yet. Kaen gripped her hand. Then we find a way to make him bleed. In the distance, Morven rose from the crater, his laughter echoing through the broken world. He lifted his black heart to the sky, and for the first time, even the stars turned away. The Ash King had risen. The world had split open. Smoke clawed at the heavens, while rivers of molten glass bled through the valleys. Above, the firmament churned with gold and crimson. Clouds set ablaze by the wrath of gods and the courage of mortals. From the towers of Vera to the farthest hills, fire answered fire. At the heart of it all stood Aeloria and Kaen, bound by light and oath. Their army of men and wind and flame gathered beneath a sky that burned. The gods had not abandoned the world entirely. The Dawn Goddess, defying the council, descended in a column of aurora light. Around her came the lesser deities, the River Twins, the Falcon of Storm, the Child of Ember, each bringing what remained of their forgotten power. We stand, the Dawn Goddess declared, not as rulers, but as witnesses. Aeloria bowed her head. Then help us make the world remember. And so, for the first time since the making of stars, gods and mortals fought side by side. From the eastern wastes came Morven, the Ash King, his vast form wrapped in flame-black armor. His crown blazed with ruin. His sword was a shard of the first dying sun. With every step he took, the earth turned to cinder. His voice rolled across the battlefield. Look upon your savior and weep. You have stolen fire. I will show you what it costs. His legions of ash poured forward, wraiths screaming, beasts of smoke galloping on the wind, rivers of molten shadow devouring the fields. Kaen led the front line. Solendra flared gold as it clashed against the endless dark. Sparks leapt like stars reborn. Around him, warriors of Vera fought with torches and hammers, singing the song of the forge to drown their fear. Aeloria soared above them, wings spread wide, her light carving through clouds of soot. Where she flew, shadows fled. Her voice rang out like a bell of dawn. Remember warmth. Remember love. You are not ashes, you are flame. The soldiers shouted her name, their hearts igniting. For a moment, the tide held. But Morven's laughter drowned the song. He raised his hand, and from the ground rose titans of molten bone. The Cinder Lords, remnants of the first gods who had betrayed him. They swung their colossal fists, smashing mountains into dust. The Falcon of Storm dived to meet them, wings crackling with lightning. The river twins summoned floods of boiling water to cool the land, but even their power faltered under Morven's shadow. Aeloria dove to meet the Ash King. Their powers collided midair, light and darkness exploding in rings that tore the clouds apart. Kaen watched from below, every heartbeat an echo of her flame within him. She shouted over the roar, "Morven! This ends here," he sneered. "There is no end to hunger." "Then I'll give you something else to consume," she whispered, and hurled her own fire into the heavens. A rain of golden meteors fell upon the armies, annihilating the wraiths in blinding light. But the price was steep. The power tore through her mortal frame. Her wings dimmed, her voice cracked into silence. Kaen felt her fall. With a cry that shook the battlefield, he charged through the smoke, cutting down shadow after shadow until he reached her. Her light flickered faintly beneath the ash. "Stay with me," he begged. She smiled weakly. "Kaen, don't you see? You are the fire now." He looked up and saw the truth. The embers of Pyra still burned in his veins, now blazing brighter than ever. Solendra pulsed with both their souls, its golden edge alive with divine fury. Morven raised his blade for the killing blow. "Mortal fool, your kind was meant to crawl, not burn." Kaen stood, the sword glowing in his grip. "Then crawl before this." Their blades met, and the world screamed. Lightning split the clouds, mountains shattered. The gods turned their eyes away, and when the light faded, the sky itself was burning. A storm of color and silence, where no stars dared shine. In the center of that silence, Kaen still stood, Solendra blazing like a sun reborn. Far away, Morven's armor cracked. For the first time, the Ash King bled. Not blood, but shadow, spilling into the wind. He looked upon Kaen and Aeloria's intertwined light and hissed, "This is not over. Fire always dies." Then his form dissolved into smoke and vanished beyond the horizon. The battle ended, the gods retreated, and in the stillness that followed, Aeloria's faint light touched Kaen's cheek. "Promise me," she whispered, "if I fade, you'll keep the world warm." He took her hand, his voice trembling. "Even if it costs me everything." The dawn rose blood red, painting the ruins gold. The war of heaven and ash had ended, but the legend was far from over. The war had ended in silence. The fields of Vera lay coated in white ash, a graveyard for both light and shadow. The rivers no longer moved. They steamed faintly under a sky bruised with twilight. No birds sang, no gods watched. Only the wind remained, and in that wind the faint heartbeat of a dying flame. Kaen knelt beside Aeloria, his armor scorched, his body trembling. The light that once burned within her had dimmed to a fragile pulse beneath her ribs. He pressed his hand against her heart, feeling it struggle between breaths. "Don't leave," he whispered. Her eyes fluttered open. Even now, she smiled. "You can't lose fire, Kaen. It just changes form." Her voice was a fading echo, soft as the first snow. "The flame is never gone. It moves, from one soul to another." Kaen gritted his teeth. "Then take mine. Take it all." She shook her head weakly. "You would die. Then I'll live inside you." He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers. Between them, Solendra, the sword they had forged together, shone once more. The golden veins along its blade flared, burning brighter than the dawn. Its light wrapped around them both, spiraling into a sphere of fire. Aeloria gasped as warmth surged through her body. Kaen's heartbeat synced with hers. Slow, steady, powerful. The ember from Pyra within his chest pulsed one last time, then leapt into her. Her light exploded outward. Mutting for a moment, the world saw two figures within the fire, one of flame, one of flesh, merging into a single silhouette. When the glow faded, Kaen was gone. Only Aeloria remained, kneeling in the ashes, her eyes no longer silver, but golden, mortal, and divine, bound in one. She rose slowly, her hair flowing like sunlight through smoke. Her wings of light reformed, but their feathers shimmered with the hue of iron and ember, streaked with mortal imperfection. Kaen, she whispered into the wind, and in her mind, she heard him answer. Not with words, but with feeling. A steady, burning courage that filled every corner of her heart. She smiled through tears. "You're still here." The gods saw it too. From the broken sky, the dawn goddess looked down in awe. "Two flames have become one," she said, "mortal and divine, united not by power but by will." But the Lord of Tempests turned away. Such unity defies the order of creation. It will not last. Perhaps he was right. The fire within Aeloria burned hotter than before, too wild for eternity, too pure for the heavens. Yet for now, it sustained her. It sustained the world. That night, she walked among the survivors. The people of Vera bowed, but she lifted them to their feet. "Do not kneel," she said. "Fire does not belong to gods. It belongs to every hand that dares to hold it." She touched their shoulders one by one, and from her skin passed warmth. Not divine, but human, like the comfort of a hearth on a winter night. Each person carried away a small spark, a fragment of Kaen's courage and her compassion. Soon, the valley glowed again, dotted with 1,000 lights that no wind could extinguish. Octaois, yet far away beyond the horizon where the sea met the stars, a ripple moved across the water, a shadow rebuilding itself, gathering the remnants of Morven's power. In the heart of that darkness, a whisper coiled. "You cannot destroy fire. You can only teach it to burn differently. And when it forgets mercy, it becomes me." Aeloria felt the echo even in her dreams. She stood at the edge of the citadel, looking out toward the endless black. "Kaen," she murmured, "he's not gone. Not yet." And deep within her soul, his voice answered like a distant forge. "Then we finish what we started." Her golden eyes flared against the night. The heart of two flames had been born, and with it, the promise of one last dawn. The dawns that followed were gentle. For a time, peace lingered over Vera like a dream too fragile to touch. Fields once burned to glass bloomed again. Rivers sang through their stone beds. Children laughed under skies that no longer feared thunder. The people built altars not to gods, but to warmth itself. They called it the Age of Ember. Aeloria walked among them, no longer a goddess apart, but a flame that had learned to live within the world. Her golden eyes saw both the divine and the human in every face. When she smiled, flowers turned toward her. When she wept, it rained softly, never cold. Yet deep inside, she felt the imbalance, the faint ache of absence, where Kaen's soul had merged with hers. His heartbeat lived within her chest. Yes, but his voice grew faint, like an ember under too much ash. Sometimes at night, When the world was quiet, she whispered to the wind, "Kaen, tell me you still hear me." And from the stars, a single spark would fall. It was answer enough. But peace never lasts where shadows have roots. Beneath the farthest ocean, where the light of day could not reach, Morven's essence festered. His body had perished, but not his will. Darkness, after all, is patient. In the abyss, his laughter bubbled through black water. So this is death, he mused. No, this is waiting. He reached out, fingers of shadows stirring the silt, gathering fragments of his broken crown. From each piece, he drew memory, fear, anger, envy, and grief. He devoured them one by one until the sea itself began to boil. Then, as if the world exhaled, the waves turned to glass. From their heart rose a new figure. Tall, regal, cloaked in night fire. His eyes burned not red but violet, and within them danced a new hunger. The Ash King was no more. In his place stood something far more dangerous. Morven reborn, the god of silence. "I have learned," he said, his voice echoing through the deep. "If fire cannot be killed, then let it be smothered." He raised his hand, and across the world every shadow trembled awake. The air dimmed, the wind slowed, the warmth began to fade, not violently, but gently, like the dying sigh of a candle. Wherever light fell, silence followed. No cries, no prayers, no heartbeat, only stillness. Aeloria felt it first. As she stood in the gardens of Vera, the petals around her froze mid-bloom. Birds vanished into thin air. Even the sun seemed to hold its breath. She dropped to one knee, clutching her chest. "Kaen, something's wrong," a voice whispered from within her. Faint, strained, yet resolute. "He's found a new shape, a silence that eats flame." She looked toward the horizon. The sea glimmered black. Above it, the clouds twisted into an endless spiral, swallowing light. Aeloria spread her wings, golden feathers shimmering weakly. "If he wants my fire," she said, "then he'll have to enter it." She rose into the sky. Each beat of her wings scattered warmth back to the earth, igniting the hearts of her people. Torches rekindled, hearths roared, and the mist retreated. But all too briefly, the darkness beneath the clouds swallowed every flicker like a predator tasting blood. From the center of the spiral, a voice spoke, deep and slow, like a world turning in its sleep. "Your fire saved them once. Let's see how it fares against nothingness." The sky split open. Outpoured a tide of pure silence. No smoke, no shadow, only emptiness. It swept across the world, extinguishing sound itself. Even Aeloria's flame flickered, struggling to breathe. She fell to her knees midair, wings dimming, light sputtering. "Kaen," she gasped, "lend me your strength." And for a heartbeat, she heard him. "I'm still here. Remember the forge. Remember what we built." She pressed her hands together. Sparks leapt between her palms, fragile but alive. The silence recoiled, hissing. For the first time since its rebirth, Morven faltered. Far above, the gods watched once more. The dawn goddess whispered. "The final light stirs." The Lord of Tempests clenched his fists. If she falls, the world falls with her. And in the mortal world below, the people of Vera began to gather, clutching small flames between their hands, defying the darkness that sought to erase them. Each fire flickered, each voice rose, and the silence trembled. The war was not over. The final dawn had yet to rise. The silence spread like a plague. Villages that had sung with life now stood motionless. Even the waves froze mid-crest. The world was trapped between breath and oblivion. Only one place still pulsed with warmth. The heart of Vera, where the embers of Kaen's forge had never gone out. Aeloria stood there now, cloaked in a faint golden haze. Her light flickering like a dying candle. She could feel Morven's presence pressing upon the sky, turning color to gray, sound to stillness. Every heartbeat in the world felt slower, heavier. "He's not destroying us," she murmured. "He's unmaking the idea of fire itself." The dawn goddess appeared beside her, radiant but strained. "His silence feeds on balance. To end him, you must forge something older than the gods. Something that remembers why light was born." Aeloria's gaze fell upon the cold anvil at the center of the forge. The same stone where Kaen had first lifted Cylindra. "The last forge," she whispered. "The one where creation began." She stripped away her armor, her cloak, even the golden feathers that clung to her back. Each one fell and became a spark, circling the forge like glowing tears. Then she set Cylindra upon the anvil. The blade no longer gleamed. Its light was trapped, sleeping within. "Kaen," she said softly one last time, "help me shape the dawn." Her hands touched the metal. The ember of Pyra within her heart responded, pulsing with slow, steady warmth. Sparks leapt. The anvil began to glow. From the shadow beyond the door, Morven's voice seeped through the cracks. "You would forge while the world ends? Foolish light. Every hammer strike steals your time." Aeloria did not answer. She drew back her hand and struck. The impact echoed through the dead air like thunder underwater. The silence cracked. She struck again and again. Each blow sent memories spiraling into the air. Kaen's laughter, his calloused hands, the child's first smile when the fire returned, the forge's song. Every memory became a thread of gold that wound around the sword. Morven stepped into the forge, his cloak of nightfire trailing behind him. He watched her, amused. "You cannot kill silence with noise." "No," Aeloria said, her voice quiet but fierce. "But I can remind it what it used to sound like." She brought down the hammer one last time. The world split open. From the anvil rose a light so pure, it had no color, no shape, only truth. Cylindra was gone. In its place burned the heartfire, a living flame shaped by both mortal love and divine will. It pulsed once, twice, and the silence shattered like glass. Morven staggered, clutching his chest. "What have you done?" Aeloria stood amidst the storm of light, hair whipping like ribbons of sun. "I've reforged the first breath, the song that began everything." He lunged, shadows coiling, trying to smother the heartfire. But it burned without heat, without hunger. It burned because it remembered every name, every loss, every act of courage. It carried them all. The flame surged outward, filling the world with sound again. The rush of rivers, the cry of wind, the beating of wings. Morven screamed as cracks spread through his body of void. "This isn't possible," he roared. "You are fire. I am what follows fire." Aeloria's golden eyes blazed. "Then follow me to the end." She opened her arms, and the heartfire consumed them both. The explosion painted the sky white. Mountains turned to light. Oceans sang. For an instant, everything that ever was existed all at once. Then silence returned, not empty, but peaceful. Where the forge had stood, There was only a single ember floating in the air, glowing softly like the promise of tomorrow, and far away on the wind came a whisper in Kaen's voice. "Well done, my flame." Light had no meaning where she drifted. There was no sky, no ground, only the quiet glow of something infinite and still. Aeloria floated within it, weightless, the last echo of her name fading among the stars. Her body was gone, her flame spent, yet she did not feel empty. She felt whole. The Heartfire's explosion had erased the boundary between worlds. Gods and mortals alike had been swept into its brilliance. And when it faded, creation began again. Different, but breathing. Aeloria sensed it in the pulse of the void, the rhythm of rivers, the laughter of children, the whisper of wind returning to the earth. The world lived. She should have been content, but she searched the silence for one thing. "Kaen," she whispered, "if we are one, where are you?" The void stirred. From the glow, a voice answered, gentle and amused. "Still trying to fix the universe, are you?" She turned, and there he was, not as a man of flesh or flame, but as light shaped by memory. His form shimmered, his eyes bright with the same warmth that once lit the forge. Her heart trembled. "Kaen." He reached out, his touch soft as sunlight on water. "You did it, you ended him." She smiled sadly. "No, we ended him." They stood together in the quiet beyond time, their hands intertwined, their flames mingling in harmony. Around them, fragments of stars began to form, tiny suns blossoming from the void. Kaen watched them rise. "It's beginning again." Aeloria nodded. "The fire never dies. It just changes shape." But something else stirred in the distance. A vast shimmer, like the reflection of an ocean turned inside out. The voice that came from it was neither divine nor mortal, but something greater. Aeloria.Kaen. The fire you forged has undone the old order. The gods are gone, and the world now burns with freedom. What will you do with it? Aeloria glanced at Kaen. "We're not gods. We can't rule it." Kaen smiled. "We don't need to. We just have to keep it warm." The voice rippled with laughter, fading into the starlight. "Then go, keepers of the eternal dawn. The world will need your warmth again when night returns." Aeloria felt herself falling, or perhaps rising. The void stretched into color, the color into form. She awoke lying in a field of gold grass beneath a pale blue sky. The air was soft, scented with rain and firewood. Around her, hills rolled endlessly, dotted with flowers glowing faintly like embers. She sat up, touching her chest. Her heartbeat was steady, mortal again. Yet something divine still lingered behind her ribs. A shadow moved beside her. Kaen, kneeling, brushing ash from her shoulder. He grinned. "You sleep longer than the sun." She laughed, a sound that made the field shimmer. "You waited. Always." He helped her to her feet. In the distance, smoke curled lazily from small cottages. Human voices carried across the valley, singing, working, living. The people of Vera were alive, somehow through the fire and silence. They had endured. Aeloria watched them, eyes soft. They rebuilt. Kaen nodded. They remembered. They walked together down the hill, their shadows stretching side by side across the glowing grass. As they passed, sparks bloomed in their footprints, tiny flames that lingered for a moment before fading. That night, they stood beneath a newborn constellation, the same one that once guided Kaen up the mountain of Pyra. The stars pulsed faintly, like a forge breathing. Aeloria leaned against him. "Do you think they'll tell our story?" He smiled. "Maybe, but stories change. All that matters is that they keep the fire burning." She looked to the horizon, where dawn began to rise. A pale light spreading like a promise. Then let's make sure it never forgets how to shine. Far beyond, in a realm untouched by gods, a small ember drifted through the night sky. It glowed softly, brighter and brighter, until it burst into a new star. And so the world turned again, born from love, from loss, from the fire that refused to die. In every sunrise, every hearth, every heart that dares to hope, her whisper lingers still. Be warm, be alive, be light. Centuries passed, the world changed, as all worlds do. Empires rose from the ashes of the old ones, then fell into dust. Forests swallowed the bones of cities. Seas shifted their paths, carving new continents. Yet, through all of it, fire remained. In every hearth, every forge, every beating heart that dared to dream. And wherever a flame flickered against the dark, her story was remembered. Mai? In the village of Lysra, a young girl knelt beside a dying campfire. The wind was cold, the night starless. Her family slept, and she shivered under thin blankets, whispering, "Please, just a little longer." The embers glowed faintly, but would not catch. Then, from the shadows, came a soft warmth, not of heat, but of presence. A woman's voice, gentle as the first dawn, whispered, "Breathe. Fire listens to those who remember." The girl gasped, for before her stood a figure woven from light and ember. Her hair shimmered gold and silver, her eyes ancient yet kind. The child did not know her name, but her heart did. The woman smiled. "There, that's enough." She touched the ember, and it bloomed into flame. When the girl looked up again, the woman was gone. But the fire burned bright through the night, its smoke curling toward the stars, where, far above, two constellations glowed together, a sword and a flame. Aeloria's essence had become the world's warmth. Wherever courage sparked, she was there. Wherever compassion lit a hearth, Kaen's spirit was there too. Their union had seeded eternity. Not as gods, not as rulers, but as memory woven into existence itself. The gods of the old age were gone, their names fading into myth. In their place stood something humbler, stronger, the will of mortals to carry their own light. In the far north, blacksmiths still sang while hammering steel. In the east, sailors followed the golden star. Aeloria's star, the first to rise before dawn. In the south, poets spoke of the flame that loved the wind, a tale of fire and heart, told by candlelight to keep the dark at bay. Even Morven's shadow was not truly lost. It lingered as night lingers. Necessary, quiet, a reminder that light's beauty is born from what it overcomes. The world had learned not to destroy darkness, but to live with it. One evening, beneath a vast sky of living stars, the wind stirred a lonely ember in the ruins of an ancient forge. From it rose two faint figures, one of gold, one of red. Dancing as if caught in memory, they circled, intertwined, laughing without sound. Aeloria's voice drifted through the breeze. "Do you hear them, Kaen? They remember." Kaen's light pulsed in answer. "Then our work is done." "Never done," she teased. Fire only rests between heartbeats. They rose together. their light merging into the heavens. The forge's ember flared one last time, brighter than the sun, before settling into a single, gentle glow that would never fade. Yot'ti. Generations later, a scholar would write, "The flame we tend is not of wood or oil, but of memory. Aeloria burned so we could remember warmth. Kaen endured so we could shape it. Together they taught the world that light, once shared, is eternal." And so it was, every dawn, as sunlight breaks through the clouds. It is said you can still hear her whisper, carried by the morning wind. Be kind, be brave, keep the fire.